Hi guys, this is the Art Behind Troy project. This will help you warm up your eye if you're new to art history. For this project you're going to need a piece of paper, and I'm going to show you 10 objects, 10 groups of objects actually, artworks that come from cultures that are of concern in this class. Egyptian culture, Greek culture, Roman, etc. Now, for each of those 10 groups, I'm going to ask you to note 3 things. So if you think about the 1 through 10 as rows, you're going to have 3 columns. In the first column, I'm going to ask you to sketch certain aspects of these objects. In the second column, I'm going to ask you to write down some art historical vocabulary that say something about the technique of the object. And then finally, in the third column, you're going to note the culture that produced it. So, if you're ready, of course, at any time, just pause the video if you need more time, but I'll be moving ahead. I'm going to show you this first group now. So you see 4 images in front of you. In the upper left-hand corner is an actual ancient artwork from the Assyrian period of Mesopotamia. And then in the upper right-hand corner, you see a restoration of a building, of a 4,000-year-old building. And then in the bottom part, you see 2 drawings. The one on the left is a drawing of a beautiful ceremonial gate in blue, and then walls on either side of it. And then on the right, at the bottom, you see a drawing. That beige area represents a palace, and then the white around it, the white structures around it with a great fortification wall here, is from an Assyrian palace. So what is the common element here? It's these walls, these fortification walls. How they're built with rectangular towers at certain measured points, and how they all seem to have, even in this Assyrian relief, these pointy bits on top. Now, the technical term for pointy bits is crenellation. These are fortification walls that have crenellations. So, on your piece of paper, I'd like you to note, make a quick sketch under the first column about how these fortification walls look with the towers. Then in the second column, I want you to write the word crenellation, and you understand that refers to this entire upper area of the wall. And then finally, in the third column, I'd like you to note that all of these images pertain to things in Mesopotamia, which is in Western Asia, modern-day Iraq, Syria, Iran, and other areas of the Levant, and even stretching into areas of Anatolia. But we'll get to the geography later. So that's your first group. Here, it's your second group. There are 2 images here. You see what they have in common. These are 2 artistic representations of boats. The one at the top is a painting. It's actually on a Greek vase, and you can see the boat in black from stem to stern with this great extended stern post there that curves up and around with its white painted sail above. And then in the bottom part, you can see this is the back of a Greek boat. Here is the stern post. And this is not a painting. This is a stone relief sculpture, in that the image is still protruding from the wall. Everything around the image that the artist wanted to create was carved away, and that left this image sticking out from the ground of the wall there. Now, these are 2 Greek images, and here is a model, a modern-day model of what one of the actual boats looked like. It's what we call a trireme, which is a war vessel, part of the Greek Navy. But you can see the important part that I want you to see is that from stem to stern, it has this great curve at the end. And here you can also see the square white sail. Now, this shape, this kind of boat, was also known in Egypt. So here on the left you have the Greek painting and the Greek stone sculpture. And then on the right you can see an Egyptian, in the bottom right hand corner, an Egyptian stone relief that is painted on top of it. And because it's kind of hard to make out, I've also given you a drawing of this scene in the upper right hand corner. But you can see how it's another ship from stem to stern to this great stern post curved around. So, for number 2, sketch the shape of that boat. Note the word trireme, and then note that it's from the Greek culture. But the shape of this boat is also known in the Egyptian culture. Here is your third object. You can quickly see the chariots, right? There are 4 chariots, and each chariot is drawn by 4 horses. Has 1 chariot box and 1 charioteer. And you're looking at these 4 chariots. They're surrounded by this oval. You probably can already see that this oval represents an arena, a coliseum. And it's as if you were a bird looking down, this aerial view down on a chariot race. Now this is made out of glass tiles. This is a mosaic, a painting with small tiles, often in glass or in pebbles, stone. This is a mosaic. It is a Roman mosaic. And what those small tiles are called is tessera. Tessera is a singular, and you see the spelling here of tesserae, that's the plural. So mosaics, whether they're made with glass or with pebbles, are made with tesserae. So for a sketch here, for number 3, maybe you would draw these little squares, these little tile bits, and then you would write down the term tessera or tesserae in the plural. Now, something else I want you to note is that these are 4-horse chariots. The Romans loved 4-horse chariots. These are called quadriga, from the Latin words for 4 and yoke. And above here I've shown you an image from the 2016 remake of Ben-Hur. It's all about Roman chariot races. Now, other cultures that had chariots often used 2 horses. These are called bigas. So that's another term you can put down under with number 3. And then, of course, the culture is Roman. Item 4. This is a beautiful 5,000-year-old necklace. And you can see that it is made out of gold. They're actually thin sheets of gold leaf that are carved, shaped to look like leaves themselves. And then in the necklace you see all these beads. There are some red garnets there, but it's these blue beads that are really of interest. This blue is a coveted blue stone called lapis lazuli. And in ancient jewelry around the Mediterranean, if you had fine jewelry, it wasn't made of shell or bone. It was usually made of gold and the lapis lazuli, making this wonderful contrast between gold and blue. So sketch what you like about that. Note lapis lazuli. And this particular necklace is from the Sumerian culture, but you can write down that it's from Mesopotamia. Number 5. Here I'm showing you 3 images, 1 drawing in the upper right hand corner and 2 actual images of partially restored buildings. They all have these columns in common. What is distinctive about these columns, which you really don't see in any other place around the Mediterranean, is that they are tapered. They are wider at the top, near the capital, than they are near the base at the bottom. You can see the diameter of the column at the top is larger than the diameter at the bottom. These tapered columns are distinctive to a particular culture that lived on the southernmost island in the Greek Isles, the island of Crete. And the culture, the people that lived there at a particular time in the Aegean Bronze Age, they were called the Minoans. So these tapered columns that were often stuccoed, plastered, and then painted in red and blue are distinctive Minoan columns. So note that down. Quick sketch, tapered column, Minoan culture. That's your 5. Here is your 6. Well, this is from a culture that made columns that were very straight. This is an image above of a palace site in modern-day Iran. The site is called Persepolis. These columns are almost 70 feet tall. And you're looking at what was a palatial audience hall for the Persian king. And what I want you to note is that the platform at the bottom, this is what was beautifully decorated in stone relief. It's this area and here that's carved with images like you see on the bottom. So, this is from the Persian Empire. It's from Mesopotamia. I want you to note that this is a palace platform that has exterior relief sculpture on it. And in this case, this very famous relief actually shows 2 important Persian kings, a father and a son. The father is seated in the middle here. His name is Darius. You might pronounce his name differently. I say Darius. And then his son, Xerxes, is standing behind him. The son here, standing behind his father, King Xerxes, is a name that you might have encountered before, especially if you're a fan of the 300 movies. But I have to tell you that Xerxes is probably dressed a bit more modestly, as you can see here. This helmet is your number 7. This is an actual Greek helmet that was shaped. It's not cast. It was cold hammered. And Greek helmets have this very distinctive shape in the front. They have these cheek plates that almost meet in front of the mouth. So, number 7, helmet with fixed cheek plates. You can sketch it if you like, and then it is a Greek feature. 8. This is a painting on the side of a vase, a Greek vase, and I'd like you to count how many figures you see, and then discern the event. What is happening here? Do you see the man who is placed horizontally across this stone, which is an altar? He is shown in this elaborate embroidered gown, and he has a white beard and long hair. This embroidered gown with the red stripes and the added white flourishes like little rosettes, this shows him to be a king or a member of royalty. And he is clearly dead. And the 2 women behind him are grieving over him, and the responsible party is this Greek warrior who's standing at the left. Now look at the Greek warrior's face. He has on one of those Greek helmets. And he's got a shield in his left arm, and he has his spear up in his right. And he's entering from the left, moving from the left to the right, as victors often do. So for this item number 8, I want you to note that this is an elaborate textile robe, and that this painting also includes drawing with incised lines. The Greeks would take a sharp point, like a burin, B-U-R-I-N, and carve through painted surfaces to create this line, to expose the color of the clay behind it. And then they would apply paint on top of the black paint. Here, this is applied and this red is applied. So for 8, note the elaborate robe and that there is some use of incised lines from this Greek vase painting. This is another Greek vase painting. This image on the upper part of your screen is the painting that appears on the outside of the vase that you see at the bottom. This vase has a very shallow bowl, a very wide diameter. It is a Greek wine drinking cup called a kylix. There's a spelling of kylix. And on it you see more scenes of warfare. Now you can see the Greek warrior here, the victorious one, is coming in from the left. He again has his shield on his left arm and his dagger in his right. And he's rushing up against the man who's lying almost dead. His sword is almost falling out of his hand, and his chin is thrown up. Now focus for a moment on that area here. Do you see what the Greek warrior, what this Greek warrior has in his left hand? Yes, he's actually grabbed onto the braided part of his opponent's beard and just ripped it off of his face. So, number 9, more scenes of warfare in the Greek world, and this from a wine drinking cup. So this is your last image. This comes from a ceramic pot. And this is just one part of the decoration of a very large pot, and you clearly see a horse. It's not an actual horse because it's on wheels and it has windows carved out of its side. This is the Trojan horse that comes to us from the stories of Homer, put down in the Iliad and the Odyssey, that tell us about this great battle between the Greeks and the Trojans. The Greeks were attacking the Trojan city for 10 years, really getting nowhere, until one of the Greeks came up with this idea to hide the army, hide all their ships, and pretend that they had left, and leave this great horse on the beach for the Trojans to find. And they would think it's something miraculous from the gods. They bring it into the city, and then they would find out that the horse was actually full of the Greek soldiers, and they would creep out at night and open the gates of Troy, let in the rest of their army, and finally end the war with the destruction of the city. So this is a really cool image because you can see all the little cutouts of the windows and the faces of the Greek soldiers. You can see how they're handing down their shields here, and their daggers here. And you see the fellow standing on the back of the horse. He's got a shield as if it's his body. He doesn't even have a body. He just has this shield covering him. The fellow to the right's handing out one of those helmets. So this is a scene from the Trojan War showing the Trojan horse, the event that brought a close to the battle. And it's done here, it's a Greek pot, and it's done in mold relief. It's not carved and it's not plastered on. It's actually made out of a mold with a ceramic. Now, Trojan horse today we use in a very different way, the same sense actually, but it refers to things that get into your system, you don't want them there, and you're completely unclear on how much havoc they can cause because of what is inside them. So, now you have your 10 images. What I want you to do is watch a short segment from the Troy movie, the one with Brad Pitt, and you will be able to see each of these images represented in the movie. So as you do, just follow along, check off, and see how many you can identify.
Open the gates! Yeah. Don't get too close, my king.
This is the will of the gods. They desecrated the temple of Apollo, and Apollo desecrated their flesh.
They thought they could come here and sack our city in a day. Now look at them, fleeing across the Aegean.
What is this? An offering to Poseidon. The Greeks are praying for a safe return home. This is a gift. We should take it to the temple of Poseidon.
I think we should burn it.
Burn it, my prince. It's a gift to the gods.
Father, burn it. Look at them. You'd think that prince had never died.
You're the prince now. Make your brother proud.
So, hopefully you found almost all of those images, at least 8 of them, if not all 10. You can always email me if you want a hint as to where a certain image appears. Now, the purpose of this was to, yes, warm up your eye, but also to show you how your knowledge of the actual objects, the ancient art, inform your viewing of the movie. You understand better how the movie imagery is put together. And this is the first step in becoming art literate or image literate, visually literate in the works of the ancient world, in the art and the architecture of the ancient world. And so for this class, for the first 2 units out of the 3 total for this class, we focus on these cultural areas. We look at Mesopotamia, Egypt, Greece, Rome. We started all in prehistoric Europe. At the earliest phase, we pick up these cultures at these absolute dates. And you'll know that all of them are BCE, that is before the Common Era, until Rome when we cross over and we're going to look at the art of the Roman Empire until the 4th century, the early 4th century actually, and the art of Constantine. And then for the final unit of this class, we move to the Christian world. In the East, we look at the early, middle, and late Byzantine Empire until Constantinople was conquered by Mehmed II in 1453. And in the West, we look at early Christian and then medieval art from Spain, from France, from Italy, across Western Europe. And here are those absolute dates associated with Byzantium, the Byzantine Empire, and different phases of medieval European art. So there you have it. That's what we're going to do in this course. I hope you have enjoyed this project, The Art Behind Troy.